What is up, Call of Duty fans? Welcome back to the end of week 1 of the CWL and Division A, other labels as well. I'm Alan, IHOLDSHIFT, down to Frio, you are you, and this is a little bit of the recap. Again, part 2, we're doing this week as doing dual days, so 1 episode for every 2 days of action. Next week, I think I'm actually going to lean toward doing an episode a day, and just to kind of keep the content rolling. I want to do more specific stuff, and this is a little bit too general for my liking, especially with some of the ideas that I have in mind. But regardless, we're not going to get there. Let's get into the CWL. This is where we were left after the games on Tuesday. Remember, Red Reserve started off strong against Reciprocity, and OpTic Gaming we had a lot of questions about, again, because Dashi is still dealing with visa issues. So as you took a look at it, would Zuma be able to fill in and let OpTic still reign supreme? It would not start that way, as Midnight showed off with a nice 3-0 win. And then on Tuesday, a very interesting day, a very close day, actually, as you had Gen.G, Red Reserve going at it, a 3-1 there. Midnight starting off 2-0, 6-0 in maps. OpTic Gaming bouncing back against a very talented UIU team with the Methods and Mayhem combination looking really solid. And then Luminosity not quite able to get the work done against Reciprocity, and those standings, again, as you see them, as what it was left off with after the first couple of days. But we got to get into what happened on Wednesday as well as on Thursday. A lot of pivotal games that would really kind of test and show the true colors of some of these teams. So let's go ahead and dig into it, starting off from what happened on Wednesday. Reciprocity and Gen.G might as well have been relabeled as the Tommy Show. He dropped 47 in the first hardpoint and then 40 plus in the second. But both of those would be in an overall losing effort. As you see it, it would be a 3-1 favoring Gen.G. Control was all defense. Fortunately for Gen.G, they were the team that started on defense, so that would go 3-2. The Search and Destroy was, again, in control mostly of Gen.G, a 6-4 there. And then both hardpoints were close. Gen.G would have to battle against the juggernaut that was Tommy. I mean, this guy was all over the map. He had opening score streaks on both hardpoints, looking like an absolute menace to society. The unfortunate thing was there was just nobody else there to help him in the effort. Gen.G across the board was playing as a full 5-man team, and even though Tommy was absolutely lights out and ended up having like 15,000 total damage in the hard points, again, with losing efforts, it's just one of those things that you have to be taking at Reciprocity. This is one of our biggest issues we had with them, was the consistency of the team. Although it is good to know that Tommy can do those things, makes you wonder if Dylan sitting in the side mirrors might be looking at more of a main focus, depending on if the SMG gameplay of Reciprocity does not bone up a little bit higher. Denz and Zed have played well, but have they played consistently? I don't know if they've played at least as consistent as Dylan did from the PLQ, so maybe some opportunities there to get Dylan some work in the future. We'll see what happens, but Gen.G, again, like I mentioned, just too complete of a team. Even with Tommy frying against them, they were able to bounce back, keep their composure throughout, and Gen.G would walk away. Second set of the day, Luminosity, UIU. UIU just off the back end of the M&M brothers dominate Seaside. A 250 to 147 for UIU. Mayhem and Methods looking really, again, really good with one another. They're playing off each other very, very nicely. The SND would surprisingly, though, go the way of Luminosity. Barely, though. Just barely. Slack definitely started to play better, but Gunless was the big effort minder there, as he dropped 16 total kills in that SND. The control was essentially kind of stompy, even though it reads it's a 3-2. UIU was in control of it throughout most of it. And then at the end of the day, the 250 to 229 for the last hard point in UIU's success story. UIU just winning too many gunfights. But you talk about the clutch factor as well of Proto. He made some solid plays throughout to keep a couple of hard points that probably would have been swung in Luminosity's favor, at least in contest, if not still in control for UIU. But I gotta, again, say, Methods and Mayhem together are absolutely nutty. This team, definitely one to keep your eye on as we go forward. I'm gonna definitely have to reevaluate where I have them in my power rankings, simply because, again, they looked really solid from start to finish. We'll talk about how they fared on Thursday coming up in a bit. Red Reserve against Midnight. And goodness, Midnight. This was, again, a test, because Red Reserve has not done well against North American-based teams that are Pro League caliber. Midnight, again, trying to make their way into the 3-0 margin, be the first team to hit that. And this game would go all the way to 5 maps. It would start off with the hard point. Again, goodness gracious, Midnight are just the kings of comebacks on hardpoint. There's so much composure. Everybody stepped up when needed. It was a close set. 250 to 234 is how that one would read. The Search and Destroy, interesting. Red Reserve looking pretty good. Still a little bit on the wonky side, generally speaking, especially since Red has not been the most solid S&D team lately, but they made this one look a little bit more convincing, a 6-2 there. The control as well, goodness, if you missed this control, it was on Arsenal. You need to go back and watch it. It would go all the way to round 5. A 3-2 scoreline would eventually favor Red Reserve. There's so much to say about it. You just have to go back and take a look. There were a lot of odd man situations that were flipped, a couple of close points that were contested. It was just a lot of back and forth, a lot of really crazy plays that were had. If you go back, I think it was Maven and Merc that had the call on that one. They had a lot of very interesting dialogue just with that game being absolutely insane. And then past that, it was just all Midnight. The hard point, 250 to 130, 6-4 on the Search and Destroy. Midnight coast and cruise. They come back once again and win this set 3-2. Finishing off Wednesday, OpTic versus Evil Geniuses. And just beforehand, Scump had made a tweet saying that he's going to be on the Maddox, and there was a big raised eyebrow behind that from a lot of people, not just him. But it did not seem to be much of an issue. A couple of moments where you could tell Scump not comfortable with the more passive positioning. He likes to be that guy that get up in the face, and the Maddox does not complement that play style. But he did pretty well with it. Zuma was allowed to play on the SMG, and he looked a lot more smooth with it. The hardpoint had some wonky moments, but the S&D was just about as one-sided as it gets. And then the control, again, very back and forth, but OpTic would rue the day. 3-0 against Evil Geniuses. Again, I thought Evil Geniuses in the first 2 days looked pretty decent on Tuesday, even in a losing effort versus a good Midnight squad. This did not look like an Evil Geniuses that was prepared and ready to go. So we would jump into Thursday's action. UIU versus Midnight. And again, most of you that are very avid followers, I had UIU possibly winning this game. I knew everyone was going to take Midnight to win this one, but I had UIU on very even stat lines average-wise when it comes to scores on hard points and controls. I just thought as long as they don't take control to Arsenal, this is a possibility that UIU could do some work. And the first hard point looked pretty good for a moment. UIU was up early, was looking really solid on the back end of some good gameplay from Methods. But even with streaks and about an 80-point lead, Midnight would pull it back and totally take over the back half of the hard point, a 250 to 185. Search and Destroy all Midnight. Just too much to even doubt whatsoever what Midnight is able to do as a team. UIU, no response there. And then again, just do not play Midnight on Arsenal control. They're so good at it. It was a pretty stompy 3-0, unfortunately, for UIU and my prediction, as well as a couple of dollars that I bet the game. Because the stat line, the favorite was so favorable to take that bet. If they win, I cashed out, but not going to be the case. Later on this week as well, I'm actually going to go back and showcase a video on why Midnight is so good. So make sure you keep your eye open for that one. In our second game, OpTic would take on Reciprocity, aka in the first hard point, TJ would take on Tommy. Tommy, again, just insane throughout the entirety of this set, but OpTic would again come out on top. This would be a 3-1, the 250 to 231 on the hard point. TJ had some monster plays. Tommy, again, opening things up with just insane ability to play the 50-50 points on the first hard points. The guy's just absolutely a nutter. The Search and Destroy, Reciprocity, looking pretty solid, honestly. Good rotations on the SMGs, and the AR gunplay from Wuskin is definitely nothing to shy away from. A 6-4 favoring them, but then past that, OpTic would just take over and not look back. Control all OpTic, hardpoint all OpTic, even out rotating Tommy, because just simply the fact that Tommy did not pop quite as hard. And it really kind of, for me, begs the question, will this Reciprocity team be able to bounce back, and will they actually get a full solid team behind them? Because it can't just continue to be the Tommy show the rest of the week. So we'll see how week 2 looks as we set that one up later this week. Red Reserve, Luminosity, and goodness, Luminosity just looked lost out there, flat out. This is not what all, the first day that we saw them play up against Reciprocity, it was a pretty even stat line across the board. Again, you look back at it, it was a 3-2, pretty even hard points, pretty even Search and Destroy, pretty even control. Nothing was even here this time around with the other European flavor pick in Division A. 250 to 150, 6-1. They would do really well, actually, on the control. I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, because everyone from LG started to frag on the control. Nearly everyone was positive. Incredible what happens when your SOG line starts to actually frag out, which is something that they have not had lately, as Slacked, again, one of the big conversation points of should he stick around. But then wait. It was looking good on the hard point for Luminosity for a while, but Rated and Scraps would start to piece together what was a monstrous comeback on Seaside. You could say it was Seaside things, but in this case, that would not just simply be the case. Rated had a 6-for-6 on this Annihilator, all of them mini little flicks, locking in solid, and they would piece together 3 straight hills for what would eventually be a Fountain Hill win. A lot of drama behind this one. It was a very good game, but again, you take a look at Luminosity and what they've lacked in, and goodness, you have to think that it's panic mode. John not playing consistently, Slack not looking so good, Classic not playing consistently. It really is just Gunless and Formal that have been doing it for me. And it kind of just makes me look at this as saying good SMGs and good SOGs are apparently hard to find because a lot of people are lackluster in that department especially. So that would be a 3-1 for Red Reserve on the back end of some great gunplay from Rated and Scrap specifically. Gen.G versus Evil Geniuses. Last chance for EG to walk away. Have not won a map as of this goes. And Gen.G, if records were to tell us anything, they always lose the first hard point and then they would sweep 3-1. That would be exactly what happens here. They lose the first hard point 250 to 203. Very back and forth, but again, not really for the greatest of reasons. Royalty popped off in the first hard point. He looked really solid, speaking of good SMG gameplay. And then the search and destroy. Evil Geniuses, what is going on? What are you doing? Bomb gets ninja'd in one round. All of them hit into showers together from the front door to A. That gets absolutely just concussed and picked up. It was just too easy for Gen.G. The 6-3 scoreline does not really tell the full tale because Gen.G was just comfortable the entire way through. They would then, again, control all defense, and it was all relatively sloppy, to be honest. Team collaterals on Annihilators, we're not going to go too much into that, but it was just kind of madness, where the defense just, again, was just cool, calm, and collected throughout all of it. And then, on the last hard point, Gen.G would stack up on streaks. Facento went 8-21. Typically, I'm a big Facento fan, but he did not play well in this last hard point, 250 to 75. So we'll take a look at what the standings have to say for Division A after our first week of gameplay. Midnight, up top, 12-2 in maps, 4-0 altogether. You love to see that for the Purple Storm. Gen.G, surprise, surprise, 3-0 for them, 9-3, and again, only those map losses coming in their first map. So if they can just clean up a couple of those early hard points, you're looking at a pretty even stat line maps-wise between them and Midnight. OpTic Gaming will salvage themselves a 3-1 without Dashy, 9-6 in the map. So again, those maps were pretty close. Red Reserve will split down the middle of the 2-2. UYU 1-2, but again, look at the map totals, 5-7. They are knocking on the door to be a major threat here in Division A. And then at the bottom, goodness gracious, what happened? Reciprocity, Luminosity, Evil Geniuses, all with 3 losses. Only one of those 3 coming away with a set win, and that was Reciprocity. Yikes. Things not looking so good near the bottom. And you'll definitely have to take a look at things as they go through into week number 2. That is the next one that we have coming up for you guys. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on these videos. We're already at a bit longer than I wanted to go. So what I'll be doing from here on out, I want to do a Why Midnight is Good video. I want to do another power rankings adjustment video. I'll be doing those weekly. I don't think anybody else is doing theirs weekly, but I'm going to be doing mine weekly as I have a number of stats to go off of. And then past that, we'll do a week 2 setup as we try to get into week 2, labeling out the matches, what to look for, and what are the key factors for some of those matchups as they come through. So if you enjoy that type of competitive Call of Duty content, make sure you hit that subscribe button, the notification bell to get those little pop-ups of when my videos do come live. It's been a pleasure being here with you guys. Of course, make sure you also join my Discord if you want to be in live conversations when the games are going on. A lot of us will watch the games all the way through from start to finish, Monday through Thursday. So make sure you're around for that. A lot of things coming your way as far as content. So hope you guys enjoy. Again, I am one of Gamepedia's, COD Gamepedia's content creators. If you don't follow them, you need to be doing that because they give all of the big info on what's happening live time when it comes to Call of Duty. So make sure you give them some love at COD Gamepedia. Till next time, though, hope that you keep holding it down. Later. Bye-bye.